Hi, how are you? I just finished reading Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, and I started to wonder who gave me the idea to read that book, but I cannot honestly remember. It's a sort of a self-help book with the exercises and ideas how to wake up your creativity and how to remove any blocks if you have those. It's written in 1992, so it's over 30 years old. So I don't know where it stands in the line of self-help books. But it's mostly aimed to the persons that wish to be artists or wish to be more creative in their lives. I don't want to say bad things about these books I read. That's not fair. Then I don't give a review or or I just stop reading in 50 pages, like I told you. But for some reason, I read this through, even though I found it to be a little bit childish in some places and a little bit overly optimistic about those stories of ordinary people wanted to be a director and soon they become directors or screenplays or something like that. I know the competition is fierce in that field, and it's not easy to just come out of nowhere and be creative and be a director. That's not, I don't believe that kind of things happens very, very often. But nevertheless, the book was very optimistic, a little bit childish. But if you feel that you want to wake up your creativity and get rid of all the blocks, then it's maybe worth read. Because there is, of course, if you think about the same thing that the writer, so you agree, then that's a good tip. But in the other hand, if you think that her tips are not all okay, then that's a good thing too, because that makes you think about the alternatives. What would you do? Like, for example, if I take a very popular opinion with artists and money, that you should throw yourself into art and not care about the money. It doesn't matter if you are a little bit poor, because there might be a reward somewhere. And the main thing is to do art, to be creative. Well, that's maybe right answer for somebody, but for people like me, it's not. If I don't know where I get my monthly money or yearly money that I can provide myself and my children, then I cannot be creative. I get permanently blocked. So for me, I think that if I want to do something creative, then it has to start on the side of the real job that you have. And then you can freely create and try to make time to create and do new stuff. It's always advisable to try new things. And there was very good tips, a few that I did. The first and the best was to write a morning pages, as she calls them. So every morning when you wake up, you just, if you have to take something, like I drink juice because I cannot function if my blood sugar is down. So I just take juice and sit down on the table and write quickly 3 pages. That I thought that is, I can write 3 pages in 20 minutes, and that's something that I can do every morning. And my husband joined me, and he writes 2 in the morning. So it's interesting to see how it goes. We have been doing that now for, I think, 2 weeks. But there is a point in that, and she didn't invent the wheel again by doing something first thing in the morning, because then you don't have your sensors up, like she said in the book. So your conscious mind is not very wake already, so it doesn't disturb your writing and your like flow of thoughts. And of course, there is a different kind of people. My husband started to write a story, something that comes out of his head. But I started to write about what I feel. Like every morning what I feel, and then the story with 3 pages, you go far. But of course, that's just for persons that write. I'm a writer. Or as long as I live, I just could like sit down at the table and start to write and write until I get hungry or I get tired and go to sleep. There is always some story in my head waiting to come up, or some ideas or thoughts. Actually, I think that I was 7 when I got my first diary from Santa Claus, and I've been writing since. Of course, at first it was really, really hard, but of course that doesn't function for people who don't write. If you never write, it's very hard to even write 1 page. But it's a good tool for those people who write. And then there were a few other tips. There was this kind of take a pen and paper and don't think about it and just write 20 things that you want to do. Just like that, bim, no thoughts. And if you do that, you will be surprised, I think, what comes in the paper. Just do it as quickly as you can, whatever comes to your mind, not any like budget or realism, but just what you want to do. And in those 20, there are probably something that you can do and that you have forgotten. I made that list and I try to every now and then get to do the things that I want that I haven't done in maybe a year or 2. I want to sew my clothes or more clothes for myself, and I want to paint and draw. But those kind of things get lost in the way in the everyday life. And it's good to remind ourselves those little things that we can do to feel ourselves, to feel who you really are. But if you don't have any kind of a creative ambitions, then the book is all in vain. Or I don't have any ambitions about creativity. My head works as it works, but it was a good reminder. And if you love doing those kind of things, that the book contains a 12-week program. That sounds alarming, something like AA, but it's not. I don't know anything about AA, but what the movies. But anyway, it contains a 12-week program, so you can have it for 12 weeks. So read 1 or 2 days and then write the morning pages every morning and do the exercises and maybe discuss it with somebody that wants to do the same. That's an experience, an experiment on yourself, on your head. But if you have very limited amount of time, then I have other book recommendations that foresee this easily. But it was a nice experience. I read it through. I thought I agreed with her, and then I disagreed with her. But nevertheless, I've learned again something from a certain type of persons, what kind of type of person she is. That was very clear in the book, and that's very courageous to write that way. But I think that's for most the only way. It's no use to pretend that you are somebody else and write somebody else's stories. That's another issue, another thing. But that was for short for Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. I hope you have a great day. I see you soon. Goodbye.